What's up, everyone? It's Brian from Exact Cybersecurity and IT. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to get into Black Cat ransomware. They are the group behind the Change ransomware attack, the United Healthcare, the big pharmacy hack that everybody is kind of talking about that's in the news. And it's been recently revealed that this AlphV Black Cat ransomware group are the ones behind the attack. And it's causing a lot of interest and a lot of concern among a lot of people, especially in the healthcare field, who seem to be highly targeted by this group ever since the event in December where the FBI supposedly took down this group. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the group, the FBI tactics when they take down these groups and how ineffective they really are. And we're going to talk about these things in today's video. But again, this is the Black Cat AlphV ransomware group, a little bit of a deep dive on this group and how they're impacting the healthcare industry right now as we take a look at this Change Healthcare ransomware attack a little bit deeper. So let's start talking about some of these things right now. First thing I'm going to talk about is the recently released Stop Ransomware Advisory released by CISA, FBI, and Health and Human Services of the US government. What we have here is CISA, FBI, HHS have issued a cybersecurity advisory regarding the AlphV Black Cat ransomware group, also known as Black Cat. And this advisory is part of a broader Stop Ransomware effort to provide network defenders with detailed information on various ransomware variants and threat actors, including tactics, techniques, procedures, otherwise known as TTPs, and indicators of compromise, which are also known as IOCs, and enhanced protection against ransomware threats. So I'm going to talk about some key points, but I will link to this advisory down in the description for you so you can access it easily. But let's talk about kind of some things in this advisory, and I'll get into some other interesting things around this group and our government and the fact that this is happening to such a major player in the healthcare space at the time that it is. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And I think some of the things that our government is doing around trying to prevent ransomware are not going to work out. And we can kind of look at other things that our government has tried to do in the past using what I would call force to affect change in the world. The first thing that comes to mind is the quote-unquote failed war on drugs that this government tried to implement over the years, and for all intents and purposes have pretty much backed off the war on drugs, so to speak, because they realized that forcing people or combating it in this way with law enforcement is not really the best way to go about it, and there's other methods and treatments that prove to be far more effective. And I think that we're going to learn that lesson here with ransomware and cyber security in general, just because of the way things are situated right now, the way that the dark web works, the way that things are so easy to set up and do and get it around the world in pretty much the blink of an eye with the internet today. Traditional ways of dealing with criminals are not going to work, in my opinion, and I'm going to highlight that in this video as well. AlphV and Black Cat, they're identified as a ransomware as a service, meaning that they have affiliates out there that get into networks, and once you are able to compromise a network or use your affiliates to target a network, then they come in and they do their dirty work by deploying the ransomware and negotiating the ransomware payment, stealing data, reselling that data. And we're seeing a lot of that right now with this incident. So it's why I wanted to talk about it and bring it to everyone's attention. So they've been recently observed employing a new communication tactic that has notably targeted the healthcare sector, following encouragement from administrators to attack hospitals. This shift in focus comes after operational actions against the group in early December of 2023. The FBI came out and they continue to come out and do this, and I really hope that they stop. They have this big press conference and they roll out a bunch of agents on stage, and they do kind of like this dog and pony show, mission accomplished type of theatrics that really does nothing but piss these cyber criminals off and make them want to do more damage. And it's been proven time and time again. They literally thought they took this group down, and I didn't think so in December based on things that I was hearing and reading, that this group was going to be back and be back pretty quick and be back stronger and more secure than ever and harder to take down. And I was proven right. I talked about it on my podcast, Security Squawk, and I probably talked about it on this channel at some point, but I definitely didn't think that what happened back in December with our government taking down some dark web servers was really going to do much to this group because they really didn't get the characters involved, the human beings involved in the cybercriminal organization. They just took down infrastructure that essentially was poorly maintained. Ransomware 2.0 Sphinx update in February 2023, the group announced an update to their ransomware, enhancing its capabilities with better defense evasion, additional tooling, and the ability to encrypt both Windows and Linux devices, including VMware instances. They got taken down, and then just a little over 2 months later, they came back with a vengeance with better ransomware software. The advisory outlines the sophisticated methods used by AlphV and Black Cat affiliates to gain initial access, deploy ransomware, and exfiltrate data. Techniques include advanced social engineering, exploitation of vulnerabilities for domain access, or just vulnerabilities in that case, use of legitimate remote access tools for lateral movement, and data extortion without deploying ransomware. And you can say that this whole situation is almost a perfect storm for this ransomware group because, simply put, there was a major vulnerability with a major remote access tool that was recently disclosed by a company called ConnectWise. And I'm going to go into that a little bit in a second here, but I wanted to preface this whole conversation with that we know at this point, a little over a week into it or so, that the Change Healthcare group had ConnectWise Screen Connect installed, and it's believed that Black Cat AlphV has used that vulnerability to do this damage. The advisory also goes in and talks about recommendations for mitigation, and again, there's a link to this advisory. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of what the indicators of compromise are, what the recommendations for mitigation are. I'm just going to high level talk about them. If you want to know the details, I definitely encourage you to visit the advisory link below. Critical infrastructure organizations, and I would just say all businesses, especially in the healthcare sector, are urged to implement recommended mitigations to reduce risk of compromise, and these include routinely inventorying your assets, know what you have, know what's connected to your network. Hopefully you don't have people from the outside bringing untrusted or unknown devices in. Unfortunately, we see that a lot in the healthcare sector, so I'm mentioning that on purpose. Prioritizing remediation of known vulnerabilities. Known or unknown vulnerabilities are going to be a problem for all organizations. Unfortunately, the ConnectWise thing kind of happened very quickly, and it looks like Black Cat may have taken advantage of that, although we know from ConnectWise themselves that this particular vulnerability, the people in charge of the servers that run the remote access tool were slow to roll out these updates, which caused ConnectWise to take matters in their own hands and actually disable some of these servers that were not getting updated, that were exposed to the internet. The other things that they recommend are things like enabling multi-factor authentication, securing remote access tools, and implementing user training against social engineering attacks. So some of the things that this CISA would like you to do if you do incur an incident or have experience with Black Cat, you receive some kind of notification from them that you have been exposed to their ransomware, you are advised to take steps if a compromise is detected. And those include things like isolating affected hosts, means taking them offline, don't shut them down. Reimaging compromised systems, that's something you're going to do later on in the process, not while you're trying to figure out what's going on. Changing account credentials and reporting the incident to authorities like CISA, FBI, and HHS, and then some. The advisory also emphasizes the importance of preparedness and proactive measures in defending against the evolving threat posed by ransomware groups like AlphV, Black Cat. And CISA just basically is letting people know that if they take the steps outlined in these mitigation strategies and stay informed about the latest ransomware attack and techniques, organizations can enhance their cybersecurity posture, resilience against these malicious actors, meaning you're going to make it harder for them to do what they do. And if they are able to achieve what they're trying to achieve, which is deploy ransomware in your organization or some other type of malware, or exfiltrate data in some way and use it against you in an extortion attempt. These are all things that we are seeing out there happening to organizations, especially in healthcare. They want you to be able to recover from these events without much fanfare. Now, when data is being exfiltrated, that's a whole other layer of worry that you have to be concerned about as you're dealing with ransomware. But at the end of the day, doing all the things that are listed in the advisory advisory, which is a lot. I would encourage you to take some time to look at it. And if you scroll down to the incident response section, there are quite a few bullet points that they recommend that you go through, but those bullet points are kind of like, I would say, term those easier said than done. They are pretty much very short summaries to things that can take quite some time for organizations to implement. And if you need help with any of that stuff, that's what my company does. And there's links down below in the description where you can get help with things like risk assessments, incident response plans, and business continuity. Let's go back in time a little bit and talk about this AlphV Justice Department. What happened here? We got December 19th. Justice Department disrupts prolific AlphV Black Cat ransomware variant. And I'm pulling this right off the DOJ website. The FBI went as far as offering a decryption tool for over 500 victims around the world. And unfortunately, because they did that, it really pissed off this group, because they really didn't take down this group. As it says, it disrupts them, but it didn't end them or didn't take them down. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. I really would encourage our own government, our own Department of Justice, to kind of hold back on the dog and pony show that they put out when they take these groups down or they do these types of things. If they didn't learn their lesson with this one, I don't think they're ever going to learn their lesson, because in just a few short months, this group not only turned around and caused one of the biggest disruptions in the US healthcare industry since the start of ransomware in the technology age, but you also have a group that improved their operations. Not only did they improve the software that they're deploying, the ransomware, but they also improved their dark web infrastructure. They made themselves more secure. There's a lot of things that this group improved on the heels of what the Department of Justice has done here. So it's a cat and mouse game for sure, but it's one thing to take down a group like they did a couple weeks ago with the Hive ransomware group, where they actually got individuals and arrested them. In this case, they didn't do that. And I think in those cases, you might want to hold off on boasting a little too much. I did talk about FBI going after this group and them coming back with a vengeance. But the other interesting little tidbit to this whole issue is the fact that the cyber attack on Change Healthcare was an exploit of the ConnectWise flaw. At least that's what's being reported on this website that I found. And it says security experts have warned for the past couple of days that two flaws recently uncovered in ConnectWise Screen Connect app could become the major cybersecurity story of 2024, and that healthcare and critical infrastructure sectors were especially vulnerable. Today, we're inching closer to that reality as SC Media has learned that the recent cybersecurity incident at United Health's Change Healthcare that led to slowdowns at pharmacies was caused by a strain of lockbit malware that was used to exploit vulnerabilities in ConnectWise Screen Connect. These groups are able to pivot quickly when there's vulnerabilities that are discovered and then published out there. So ConnectWise is a tool that's very commonly used in the industry that my business is in. A lot of IT departments, IT consultants, companies, MSPs, cybersecurity companies. We use this tool to remote into computers to administer or do what we need to do to them, to do our jobs essentially. They're very popular tools, especially since the pandemic happened and work from home was a big shift for a lot of businesses, and these tools became very popular. They were very popular before then, but they became very popular after, as more people are trying to do things like work from home. So IT people use these tools to do things like work from home or work on your systems from home. And what we see with groups like AlphV and Blackcat is they exploit these tools and these vulnerabilities very, very quickly when these things are announced and come out. So what happened in the ConnectWise case is they reached out to all these IT providers, all their customers, and said, hey, we have this problem. A security researcher came to us and responsibly disclosed what happened, what he found, what he discovered. We agreed with him, and we believe that what he has figured out can actually be done. And we've now provided all of our partners with a patch, and we are recommending that you update your servers immediately. And for the customers of ConnectWise who manage their own servers and ConnectWise doesn't manage it for them, they need to update or have their own team update their servers themselves. And this wasn't happening at a quick enough pace for ConnectWise's liking, and that's kind of a different story, not the purpose of this video today, but it's important because we see this a lot. We saw it with the MoveIt vulnerability, where a lot of companies got hacked because of a vulnerability in a file transfer software that's very very popular. We see it with Microsoft Exchange. There's been a number of vulnerabilities over the years with these Microsoft Exchange servers where cyber criminals have been able to get into networks, take over networks, and ultimately deploy ransomware because administrators and IT people and or companies just decided that we're not going to update this, or they're not aware that they need to update it. That's also something that can happen. You can deploy a piece of software, hire a vendor to deploy something for you. Hey, we need to be able to have remote access. Somebody comes in, installs a tool for you, and your IT people can run it, but they don't realize, or they're not getting the bulletins from the software vendor that this stuff needs to be updated. So they're completely unaware, and then something like this happens or goes down because they just didn't have the awareness or telemetry to understand that this software is vulnerable and now needs to be updated. In other cases, like we saw with Rackspace, they just made the business decision not to update, and they ended up getting ransomware and getting their customers' email servers, Microsoft Exchange servers to be more specific, their servers got attacked and ransomware because they just made the business decision to not do it because it would have cost them too much money or something like that. Well, they ended up losing a whole division of their business as a result and losing tons of customers because they made this decision to not update their Microsoft Exchange environment like Microsoft told them to do. That's it for today's video. I hope you learned more about this whole hack, how it went down, about Black Cat and AlphV and what they're up to, and how our government's kind of been handling things around ransomware and cybersecurity, which quite frankly hasn't been very effective. So that's what's going on in the world today. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe.